Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Janice Hooker Fortman with Relationship Matters. I'm happy to see all of you here today. We're going to have a wonderful show. You know, I was thinking today, well, really, let me tell you about something that happened to me. I had been reading about the COVID-15, the COVID-20, but I really didn't concern myself too much about it, even though I knew that I was eating more than I should and probably eating some things that I normally don't eat and shouldn't eat. But yesterday I had to go out and I passed up this store, and because I was waiting for someone, I just happened to turn around and go back into the store, and I saw something. I said, okay, well, I see a nice outfit, and sooner or later we're going to be out and about, and hopefully I will be speaking at live events sometime soon. And I told the guy what my size was. And I went in the dressing room, and guess what? I met COVID-20. I met the COVID-20. I couldn't zip anything up. I could barely get my arms into the sleeves. And I thought, this is what they're talking about? But I refused to get another size, a bigger size. But afterwards I thought, you know, there are two different ends to this. there is that side where people talk about COVID-20, and then there's that other side where people are hungry and who need food. And I felt guilty, to tell you the truth. I felt guilty. So where are you? Do you feel guilty about whether or not you've gained some weight? And what have you done? I have a friend who volunteers at a pantry, and she tells me how many people come who are hungry. And what I'd like to say is, if you are on that end where you met COVID-15 or the COVID-20, think about what you can do for people who are hungry, who really need food. Well, let me tell you about today's show. We have a returning guest by popular demand. And this guest is Miss Theresa Puskar. A lot of you met her before and you just talked about her so, and how much you loved her, and oh, you would love to see her again. And she was gracious enough to come today, to be with us today, to talk about success through adversity. But let me tell you something else about what's going on today. And Theresa doesn't know this. She doesn't know what's going to happen. But hold on. Guess what, Theresa? Today is Theresa's birthday. And Theresa was kind enough to appear on the show. Happy birthday, Theresa. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Theresa. Happy birthday to you. Now make a wish and blow out this candle.
Thank you, Dr. Jan. After you talked about the COVID-20, I'm glad you got the cake over there because I just finished mine.
So tell me, how was your birthday today? And you know, it just was so wonderful, so gracious of you to appear today on your birthday.
Oh, my pleasure. It's always wonderful spending time with you. My birthday evolved, you know, you're talking COVID-20. My birthday evolved around really good food. I have traveled throughout the U.S., especially in the western border, Maine and all of these places that have amazing lobster, and Clubhouse lobster bisque is my favorite. So I got that for lunch. And then I got a very wonderful dinner. But what I'm doing with the COVID-20, got my Fitbit. So I'm back to doing 10,000 steps a day. And so it might be 1:45 and I'm like, okay, 300 more to go. So that's my thing. But it's interesting what you said about that and the guilt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just, started thinking about that. There are people who are hungry, and then on the other end, there are people who are overeating.
Yeah.
And you think about it. Well, actually, you think about how blessed you are.
Yes.
In order not to be in that number, but also, what can we do?
Well, something I noted, Dr. Jan, is that I buy clothes when I feel good about my body. So when I've lost the weight, I get all excited. And then when I've got more weight on, 3/4 of my clothes sit in my closet. And so I'm thinking, you were written last year, so it's like, Theresa, buy clothes that are comfortable no matter what, and that you feel good in no matter what.
Okay.
So that's been helpful. Another suggestion I have is recently I have about 30% smell and I don't taste very well. And what I'd started doing was would do actually is before I had a meal, I would bless every part of the meal, from the farmer who planted the seed, to the man who plowed, to the store that packaged, to the truck driver, to every aspect of the food. I would imagine everyone involved and thank them. And then I'd eat really slowly. And what's happening, Dr. Jen, I'm starting to taste my food better. And I'm like, this blueberry is so delightful because I'm slowing down. And I've lost 7 pounds so far. So I think in doing that, I'm eating less and then the walking. So yes, but I loved what you said about, consider those that cannot eat and that don't have. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And thank you for telling me that you lost 7 pounds.
There's 20 more to go, though.
So let me tell you all a little bit about Theresa. For those who did not see her the last time, so I have to tell you who Theresa is. She is a highly skilled transformational leader, author, and edutainer, and she's going to tell you what that means. She has several years of experience as a keynote speaker and corporate trainer. She has written over 50 motivational books and study guides, and has published 7 children's books. So, when I grow up, I want to be just like you, Theresa. As an accomplished television and stage actress, she most recently toured her 5-star, critically acclaimed solo stage production called Causeless Joy. And she toured throughout the United States and Canada. And one of her most recent books is 8 Ways to Declutter Your Brain and the Good Morning Mind. And she has also, she has a coaching program, and she's co-created over 80 programs for many New York Times bestseller with the publisher Nightingale Conant. And that's who Theresa is. And today, Theresa, we want to talk about success through adversity. I know that most of us have had adversity. I mean, you can't live without having adversity. So tell us a little bit. We're going to kind of not free fall, but just, kind of just talk, just have a conversation. I don't have any specific questions to ask you, but just want to have a conversation about how do you go from adversity to success. So tell us about your journey.
Sure. Well, first of all, just to bridge that, I was thinking about the one-woman show, Causeless Joy. In the show, I am traveling to India. It's autobiographical fantasy. And I did go to India for a month. And in the show, I'm in meditation and I meet up with 4 fairy tale princesses. And they are kick-butt women who read me the riot act. So the first person I meet is Rapunzel, and she's this German hiker, and she put herself into tower. So she said, get out of your own tower of isolation. And then I have the second character is Cinderella, and she's a little French kitten. She's obsessive compulsive cleaner, though. She never did well, she liked her solitude. And she's telling me to, let go of my obsessions. The third is old Queenie, and she's an old princess in the pea and took everything too seriously and was too sensitive. The final character, though, as we're talking about the COVID-20, she's Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And she's Irish, and she's a hedonist, and she's overweight and just loves herself just the way she is. And at the end of the show, Dr. Jen, she hands me a mirror. And she goes, look in that mirror and tell me what you see. And I have a hard time doing that. Because as we age, the wrinkles, the scars, what we are hoping, everything, gravity, And at the end of the show, I say, I'm struggling with this. And so she kind of tried to take me through that adversity, the self-criticism, into a place of total self-acceptance, because she just loved the heck out of herself just the way she is. But basically, I think there's 4 elements to responding to adversity in our lives that I think are very important. We've all been through our own adversities. We've all been through challenges, both personally and in our careers. I know one particular case. I had a career. I felt like it was over. I had carte blanche to do a lot of creative stuff, to create films. I was touring different resorts. I was doing corporate training. I got to do creative and integrating with audience and exercises, and just loved it. Then a new director came in and he said, I want a cookie cutter. And I used to use videos that were inspiring in all my presentations to let the audience move. No videos, no travel. We want a little box. And I knew it was time to go. And they let me go. And my subconscious, my soul wanted to go for a while. And when they let me go, I met all the criterion that they challenged me with to have, stayed on my ego really hurt because I was expendable. Yeah. But my soul was so aching to leave. And so with the adversity, I think the first step we have to take is really feel into our feelings. One of the most powerful things we can do is express everything. And all of the spiritual work I've done and these wonderful teachers I've had, we hate pain. And in any adversity, there's pain, be it physical, mental, spiritual, but to go into that pain and really feel it. So I had to sit with the fact that I was let go. My ego roared, wait a second, I'm super queen. How you can't let me go? Yes, we can. And guess what? We did fine without you. So it was grieving. It was also owning my own ego. It was also owning that there's a part of me that left that job long ago energetically, and that subconsciously I played a role. I was not a victim. And that is the biggest thing, I think, through adversity, because I'm not saying going over or under adversity. You have to go through it. And to go through it is to experience every aspect. And the first step is accountability. We have to get out of victim, because in victim, nobody wins. And I found in my life, Dr. Jan, I don't know about you, it's one of the hardest things I've had to do, because it's so easy. They did this to me. They did this to me. I had to sit there. How am I accountable for this?
But Theresa,
yeah.
Isn't it comfortable to be the victim?
Is it accountable to be the victim?
Isn't it comfortable?
Oh, it's comfortable.
Yeah, because
absolutely.
if you're because then that way you blame someone else or whoever, your boss or whoever, and that way I don't have to take any responsibility for the role that I might have played in it. So that's why I asked, isn't it comfortable?
It is comfortable, and it takes huge courage to own the part that you played. And even though I can say they let me go, there's a big part. You are already gone, Theresa. And I have another story, and I have a lot of this in my book, The Good Morning Mind. That's about consciousness in business. And it's called The Good Morning Mind, 9 Highly Effective Mindfulness Habits for the Workplace. But I talk about, and I model it throughout the book. It's just both in audio and written form, but the audio, I have actors playing parts. And there's a way to communicate. And I show 3 models. The first is through reactivity, ego, not wanting to be accountable, victim. And it's like this. The second is if you open your heart and you communicate from the heart place. And the third is actually communicating from an even higher place when we're more awakened. And I don't claim to be enlightened or awakened. I've had my moments, but I have worked with authors as a producer at Nightingale. I've worked with several authors that were enlightened. But I'll tell you a story. There was one time at that job where I had a colleague, and I found out through my fellow colleagues that she had badmouthed me to this new director. And I would have previously just attacked her, gone to her desk in front of everybody, rah, 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 rah. I heard you said this. And I went, Therese, that's not. So what I did is I slept on it. And then I called her into the stairwell, and we'll call her Susie. And I said, Susie, can we talk privately? And it's always good if we're going to do conscious communication to step away from anybody else. And we went to the stairwell, and the way I started the conversation was, there's an issue that's come up, and I would love us, my intention is to clear this with you. And before we start in, I want to say, if we can both speak and not interrupt each other. And my intention is to heal this, and I honor and respect you. And I started by saying, for whatever part I played in this, I'm sorry, I apologize. So right away, that opens up hearts. And then I said to her, well, you know, I heard that you had discredited me with the new boss. And I said, I really think you're wonderful at what you do, and I think I am too. I think we have mutual respect. I want to understand. And from, again, that open place, as opposed to attacking her, so I pounce and she reacts and we're in this dance, she confided that she was in her mid-60s and her husband was out of work and she was afraid of losing her job.
Oh.
And so feeling threatened by me, she thought if she one-ups me. And I felt compassion. And I said, I get it. You're a rock star and you're doing so well. And I don't see any indication of that happening at all. But I could leave the conversation having spoken my mind, having had her speak her mind, but we weren't like this. Now, I could have run to the boss. And I thought, you know, that's just she said, I said, you said. And so, and like I said, subconsciously, if I own my stuff, I was already halfway out the door.
Okay.
But to do that and to have a commitment in a conversation, and there's certain techniques I'm sure you know of. It's never you did this to me like you're a victim. When this happened, I felt,
yes.
right? And so that's really important. So accountability is the first thing. The second thing is, well, I believe often as souls that we ask for certain people in our lives. In fact, those people that I call our frenemies, those people that are the greatest lessons, be they family, colleagues, or friends, you have a soul commitment prior to coming here. So their commitment, you know, when we come into this world, I'm going to be the antagonist in your life. And so they are sometimes some of the greatest gifts and our greatest teachers. So first of all, feeling into all of the remorse, the sadness, the fear that's with that adversity. And after feeling into it, holding ourselves accountable. And then what have I learned from this? If my soul asked for this experience, because what happened after I left that job? Oh my goodness. I wrote my 2 books. I wrote my one-woman show. I toured that. I learned so much. Had I been still there in the comfort of all of that, none of that would have happened. So what have I learned? The next is, and do you have a question? Do you want to?
Yes, someone asked here, what does it mean to be enlightened? Because when you're talking about this, the fact that you did go to this woman in a different way, you know, rather than attacking her or running to the boss. That's a part, I'm assuming that's a part of being enlightened enough to do that. So what do you actually mean when you say a person is enlightened?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. So in my experience, you have people that are unconscious, that walk around the world victim, that are attacking and in fear. And sometimes the fear is so deep and their sadness is so deep, they are a walking volcano. And I've been there, done that. They're attacking the world. Because bottom line, if they were to get to the core of their fear or go underneath the anger, I know there was a time where I thought I was so sad I'd never stop crying if I let myself feel into the sadness. That is the first. Then you have those of us who are waking up. And I'd say I'm waking up. So you get to a point, and that's part of the mindfulness process. We talked about this last time. When you're mindful, you actually have a witness. And so as I was having the dialogue with Susie, there's a part of me, as you develop that mindfulness, as you meditate, reflect, become contemplative, you're watching. And as you watch, you start being less reactive. So what happened to me was, in the beginning, I'd react, I'd blast, people would blast back, it got ugly. Then witness stepped in and I'd blast, and then I'd apologize after, and I'd catch myself. Now it's gotten to the point where more often I don't blast because I'm catching myself in all of it. So that's what I call waking up or awakening. And then the third is enlightened. So enlightened to me is masters like the Dalai Lama, Christ, Buddha, Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dunning. There's Dr. David Hawkins I've worked with. People that they no longer have fear. They are in a heightened state of consciousness that is beyond the ego self. And everything they see is from a perspective of wholeness, oneness, and connection. So they're altruistic. They have, there's a fearlessness. I'm not there. I'm not there. And like I said, I've met them and I aspire for that. Actually, when I recorded a program with Dr. David Hawkins, after 2 days of recording and telling me all about enlightenment, at the end of the program, I went, I don't know if I want to be enlightened. That's awfully hard work. Now I'm like, maybe I'd be open to it.
So to go from, let's say, fear, a fear-based life, to enlightenment, is it like going through the stages of grief, in a sense, where we experience, what we experience when we lose someone, and we bargain? Do we bargain? Is that part of it, leaving from the fear to the enlightenment stage? And yeah, it seems like it would be hard. I know I'm not.
Well, it's a commitment and it's work. And Dr. Hawkins got to the point where he was, to me, he had 1 foot on this side and 1 foot on the other, and he was quite an anomaly. But it takes a lot of commitment. But now I feel that things are, I spoke to him 20 years ago. Things are speeding up. And to me, we're on the precipice on this earth of, are we choosing fear or love? There's 2 options. And so where we've seen the fear and always under the anger is sadness and fear. So we've watched this dance, especially for the last year or 2. And so now we're being called, are we going to go to fear, which is anger and is pointing fingers at the world and all the polarity, and you are not going to be my friend and fighting? Or are we going to go to the place of love? And being in the place of love is being willing to be wrong. So it's like, do you want to be right or do you want to be in love? And sometimes it's a matter of, you know what, we're going to agree to disagree. And when they're enlightened, this is the thing, they don't try and prove people talk about gurus and cults. When you have somebody saying they're a guru and they're that you run the other way. These enlightened masters don't try to convince anybody of anything. And those that I'm working with now are, whatever you believe in is your belief. I'm just trying to bring light to whatever that is. They don't try and convert or change, but they're in the place of absolute knowing. They don't need to prove a thing to the world, right? They just live and breathe it. Yeah.
Wow. That does seem like a journey, to become enlightened, because you're pulled, to me, in so different directions. And you're pulled back from, if you're trying to get up there, something happens and it pulls you back down.
That's where the adversity steps in, Dr. Jan, because often you talk to Eckhart Tolle. He was on Oprah. He had The Power of Now and The New Earth. And Gary Zukav, another one of my favorites. They have been through huge adversity. And they had been through, both of them talked about the anger that they held, that they carried in the world, the rage. So through the adversity is where they had the growth. You know, the dark night of the soul, when we get to the deepest, darkest, most painful part of ourselves, like this is it. And that's where we start asking the questions. And that's where we start to look within. But it does take courage to say, where am I accountable here?
Yes.
So I had an example where I was doing a workshop and my daughter, I was dragging her out, and she's a teen, and she fell asleep at the workshop. And I'm sitting there doing, she's sleeping. And then when I looked within and I asked for inner integrity, the message I got, you do love your daughter, but this is about you. This is about you feeling good enough as a parent. This is about you actually wanting her to be better so you can feel better, her to have less anxiety so you can have, it's all about you, Theresa. So that awaken, and then having forgiveness for ourselves. And that's the next step, forgiveness, right?
Okay, now before we go to forgiveness, because that's I need to talk about that.
We all do.
This is for me. But let me go to quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about forgiveness. Okay.
Amen.
All right. We'll be right back. Well, we're back. If you or someone if you have a brand or if you have a service that can benefit from some really great digital content creation, I just want you guys to know that we have our own team here at Relationship Matters, and we will create something for you with the same love and care that we do for ourselves. So if you've seen anything here with our promos that resonates with you and you would like to see what we can do for you, then just DM me and we can have a discovery talk. So we're going to go back to our guest, Miss Theresa Puskar, and we're going to talk about forgiveness. All right, Theresa, let me have it.
Well, I was thinking I have a story about forgiveness. There was somebody who was very involved in my childhood who had pneumonia, and I harbored a lot of resentment towards her. And she said she wasn't sleeping. She was coughing all night. And I was a Reiki practitioner. I did different healing modalities. And I said, I'm going to come over and do some work on you. And I did some healing and energy work around her. And all of a sudden, I felt her. She actually, I could feel a sense. And this woman had a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, felt victim, read all the self-help books and saw all of us in it, just not herself. But what I saw her soul. I felt it very intensely. I felt a great peace at the center of her being and a great calm that was not the personality self. And I started to weep. And she said, why are you crying? And I said, I feel your soul. And your soul is at such a graceful, peaceful, happy, contented place. And she said, you doubted that? Now, the next morning, she had a great night's sleep, didn't acknowledge that I was any part of that or facilitated it. So my ego had to let that one go. Of course, we're never healers, right? We just allow the energy to work through us. It's not us. But I had to first forgive myself. And so forgiveness, especially through adversity, ourselves first. Nobody in this world, I believe, is harder on us than we are. We beat ourselves to the ground for our mistakes. And the bottom line is this, is at that moment, Dr. Jan, if we knew better, we would have done better.
Yeah.
Right? And so first having deep compassion and forgiveness of ourselves, because so often when we can't forgive the other, it's a projection. There's something in their behavior, personality that really irks us and annoys us. And we look at that, we see, if we look deeper, it's a part of ourselves we've either disowned or a part of ourselves that we don't want to own. So for example, if somebody really annoys me because they're always selfish, they're butting in line, what part of me is very selfish? What part of me wants to butt in line? Now, maybe I don't butt in line. In fact, I'm ultra the opposite. I am ultra gracious and respectful, but there's a part of me I've disowned that would like to be the one butting in line. So when people trigger us, it's a matter of going, is this a disowned or a part of myself I don't like and don't want to look at? So that once we're willing to look at it in ourselves and forgive ourselves, it's a little easier to forgive them. And of course, we all know, even though it's a tough one, it's one of the hardest ones. If we hold on to resentment, we're the ones, they've gone on with their lives and our stomach is churning and we're getting all worked up. They're done. Right. And so forgiveness is the biggest gift we can give ourselves. It's not always easy though.
But what? Okay, so now, what if someone's done something to you that maybe really hurt you? How does that tie into seeing some of you in them?
Yes. Okay. So there is, just like the separating of this woman I was doing the healing work, there's the soul self and the personality self. And I want to preface this by saying, this does not mean their behaviors are okay. Does not mean we have to forgive what they did. Some of these behaviors are just despicable. But to go underneath the behavior and look at them as a fellow soul, look into their eyes, see the child in them that is needing and wanting and fearful and sad and please love me, or pushing people away and acting in a hateful way because they want to create a wall between them and the world because they are so vulnerable underneath that wall. And they start making choices that, because you think about when you've done something wrong, you hate yourself more. This is why when I work with the little ones, I'll say to the kids, it's not just, Johnny, you need to not bully Sammy. Johnny, you don't love yourself. What's going on inside of you that you're hurting Sammy that way? You don't love yourself, Johnny. Love yourself. And so it's never saying the behavior, and it's hard. I've done processes with people. I'm still working on certain people where I close my eyes and I see them, look deep in their eyes and say, I see you and I love you. And I've had to do it many, many times. And there's still some people that it's like, and it's, for me, it's like, okay, making them responsible for what they've done. Can I, and this is the question now, this is the heart of what I'm working on now. Can I have compassion for them, love them where they are, but also rectify the situation? In other words, can I say, you know what, you're not getting away with this. I'm going to fight back on this. You're not going to treat me this way. Can I do that and at the same time see them as a fellow child in the schoolyard of life? And this is something I'm grappling with right now.
Oh, yeah, me too. Because
we're all a work in progress, right?
I'm just not there. I'm trying, but all what you're saying, I'm not there yet.
I'm not either. So I'm not going to claim to all of your viewers that I'm somebody that's got it all figured out. There's a lot of knowing this up here, and then there's following through down here.
Right.
But there are miracles that happen when you're able to let go. I had a producer I was working with. I don't know if I told this in your last broadcast or not, but Marianne Williamson was to come into the studio, and she'd never done studio before. We always got her live. And my engineer, when I was a producer at Nightingale, was giving me attitude with a previous author. And I went to him after the recording because he was in front of the author calling me out, stuff that I was the producer, I'm the boss, and he was crossing me on things. So after the recording, I said, I'll use a different name for him. I'll say, hey, Johnny, was there something I did there that angered you? Or is there something I could do differently? And he went, no, I don't like people. And I went, oh my gosh. So Marianne Williamson's coming to the studio in 3 weeks and I'm her producer. And I was so excited and so nervous. It's the first time she's ever sat in a studio. And I thought, okay, I could not deal with the personality with him. I'll work with him as a soul. So every night before I went to bed for the 3 weeks, I would talk to him soul to soul.
Okay.
And I'd say, I forget what name I used, Johnny, I'm scared. I'm nervous about Marianne. I really want to do well. I want to work with you. And I talked soul to soul. Marianne came. He was peaches and cream delightful. So it's a strategy people might play with. If you cannot rectify a situation, if you had adversity with people from a personality and you can't get past that, then in your mind's eye, connect with the soul part of them. And say, can I work this through with you? And I was shocked. It was a fabulous experience. It was wonderful. So that's forgiveness.
I'm going to try that.
And get back to me on that one.
I will. I will. I am going to try that because, so we're talking about adversity and going through adversity to success, to get to going through adversity to success. And you know what? The thing is, you're coming from a different kind of place, when you're talking about adversity. And I always thought, it's just something that you just overcome. And, maybe doing some physical things or positive thinking or forgetting the adversity. But I see where you're saying, about going much deeper.
You diving right into it.
Yeah. And which is harder to do than, okay, well, I'll just, just overlook that. I'll just do something over here and forget about this. And actually what you're doing, you're burying it.
Yes, and energy doesn't go away. Yeah, energy does not go away. It's physics. It'll go somewhere. It hangs around. That's why my belief system is sometimes it can hang out in our body.
Yeah.
Right? So they get to the tightness, or it's like we have to have things flow, but we're so averse to feeling pain, emotional, physical. These enlightened masters, Eckhart Tolle, and again, I'm not there. He said, if you can actually surrender into physical pain or emotional and literally go right into the center core of the pain, he says it's a blissful state that you experience in the pain. But what I found from other teachers and what I've experienced is going into the pain, it dissipates. Because what you've got is restriction and constriction. If you're holding on to that pain, that's creating stress and pressure. If you let go and then what happens is it's released. It's released. So it's our resistance to our pain that's getting us into so much trouble right now. That is the core. There's so much fear. And I think I've done a lot of work on fear through the years. And a lot of people would say I've got next to no fear. Baloney. And the more I work on my fear, the more I see deeper and deeper. At the core of that is fear. And so and once we work more and more on the fear, then there's also a matter of having to have faith in the benevolence of the universe and creation, in a sense that there's someone, something, some energy that's got my back that knows better than me. So there comes a place of surrender. And then the funny thing about, getting through the adversity is gratitude. It shifts everything. You can't be depressed and grateful at the same time. It's not possible.
That's true.
Right? So going into what am I grateful for? So when I look at that job, I love the travel. I love the work. I love the creativity. I'm grateful. As much as I had to do work on the man that let me go, wow, my life opened up after that. I took initiative and did things I never would have done. So finding the gratitude in the experience. And that to me, and like I said, there's the frenemies too. Who are you grateful for that really pushed your buttons that you were just ready to punch out, right?
So, don't you think that God has to be a part of overcoming adversity? I mean, through faith that you can overcome it?
Yes, I think it makes it so much easier. And I don't know what I would have done. Now, I was brought up Catholic, but I'm at a place now I'm non-denominational. I honor all traditions. And after working as a producer with all these experts in the different traditions, I saw that at the core of each tradition is the same love. It's the same pure love. If I didn't have faith, Dr. Jan, and I call it whatever you want. You can call it universal consciousness, creativity, God. God can be a trigger for some people, your divine, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. That creative energy that made us, that made this all happen. And so I don't know what I do without, and the faith still has to grow. It still, I really want to get to the point where I am so in faith that I totally surrender, that every moment is no worry, is a sense of joy and anticipation. But yes, faith is so, so important.
Wow. Yeah. This is really been just enlightening to me. And what you said about frenemies, and you're saying that you bring them into your life. Actually, I guess it's to teach you a lesson or to move you from one place to another. But you feel that we bring them into our lives for our own good, so to speak?
Yes, because, I've had situations where, for example, there's a divorce and people are saying, oh, those poor children, how they've suffered. What if those children ask for those two parents to have the experiences they have to deepen their soul, their sense of surrender, their sense of self, their sense of all that I've talked about? It takes them out of victim. I did work with, there was a gentleman, they called him Bears. He had a book called Happiness is a Choice. He had a system. He had an autistic son. And he was told that the son, there's no way the son could ever do very well. And they actually had a movie about this. And he wouldn't believe what the doctor said. And he started working with this child. And it was, single pane glass, people watching, observing. I started doing this process, volunteering. And there was a little girl I was working with, my Annie, who had spinal muscular atrophy and could not sit up and stuff. But her parents had her riding horses, had her doing things. And one point earlier on, I said to the parents, I feel so sorry for her. And they snapped at me and then said, what does your feeling sorry for her do for her? How does that empower? That does not empower our daughter. We don't want to hear that. That is victim. She is not a victim. And it was such an eye-opener for me. So if I chose the adversities from a higher perspective, and I chose the dramas in the world that are going on, I'm not a victim. And so when we're saying, I feel sorry for that helpless child, there's compassion, but there's also empowerment. And so there's that fine line. And that's not to say we shouldn't have empathy or compassion, or we shouldn't feel for people that have been through horrible adversity. No, I'm not saying that. But sometimes I think there's higher stuff at play, more than we realize, more than we in our human minds can really comprehend. And victim stance for me it's a mess. It doesn't take me very far. It doesn't feel like strength and energy.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So you've given us a lot. You really, really have. But, you know, where do we start? You know what I'm trying to say?
Start with the pain. Start with compassion. Actually, at the center of everything is self-compassion. Okay. And I think I mentioned this in our last interview, was that in my early 20s, I knew that I felt such disgust for myself. I felt at the core of my being was an ugliness, and I was so critical of myself. And in my early 20s, I thought, I, in this life, have to learn to fall fully in love with myself and then help others to do the same. So at the core, where to start with the adversity is give yourself permission to cry and cry and cry and feel sorry for yourself and fall into whatever is, you know, the worst thing they can do. I've done workshops on the goodness and grief and stuff. And I have friends and others that have come to me and clients, and people are telling them to stop, you know, it's enough time to grieve. You've lost your husband. It's been 3 years. Stop grieving. You've got to move on with your life. No. Let them be where they are. Again, it's the resistance. I should stop grieving. That creates a resistance. And then there's the shoulding they should be doing, shaming themselves into, I better not feel this anymore. So allowing yourself to compassionately, fully embrace yourself as you feel the pain of the adversity, as you feel the anger, as you feel the inequity of it, let yourself get into all of that. So when I talk about the other steps, that's further along. Okay. Give yourself permission to just wallow in whatever you're feeling and honor that.
In other words, the ugly cry.
The ugly cry, yes.
Ugly cry. So before we go, what is the greatest adversity you've seen someone overcome?
What is the greatest adversity I've seen someone overcome? I think death of a loved one, death of a child.
Okay.
I've had suicide. I've had friends that have committed suicide. For me, I had a friend who reached out to me. My daughter was 2, and he was living in Vancouver. I was living in Chicago. He called me and asked me. He said, I need help. And I said, I couldn't leave my child. I said, come here. I'll pay for your plane ticket. Be with me. Spend time with our family. He committed suicide.
Oh.
And so the pain I felt at, I could have, should have, would have done more. I've had to work on that. And from the other side, I've talked to him as a fellow soul. And he, you know, I'm so sorry. And he kind of came back with, it's fine. It's good. So but you know, people that have lost children, I think, I don't know anybody personally that has actually my mechanic just lost his daughter. People that have lost their children, I think, is probably the greatest adversity. Or people that have been sexually abused or physically, emotionally abused, who were not heard, who were told by their parents, you know, very disempowered. We don't talk about it. You're going to move forward. I think that would be very painful. Yeah. But often people that have been in that deep pain, my God, the way they help the world to heal thereafter, if they're able to pull themselves out.
You know, and I often wondered, when you see something like that happen. I have a friend whose son was killed in college, and her only child. But through that, she founded a nonprofit that ended up helping so many children, young people, to attend college and to mentor them while they were in college. I mean, and it seemed like that happened so that she could really help hundreds and hundreds of young people, you know. And so when you look at some of these things, you think, you know, well, this happened so that this could happen, you know, which is why they say, you know, you don't ask why, because you will see the why later on.
Yeah.
Theresa, thank you so much.
My pleasure. What a wonderful birthday evening.
I'm just like, oh, Theresa, this is her birthday. This is her birthday. And thank you so much for spending part of your birthday with us.
My pleasure.
As a matter of fact, one of the Facebook users said to you, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. And here's another happy birthday from Maxine, and another happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm going to enjoy and taking it all in.
Enjoy and take it all in, and have another piece of cake.
Oh, I am. It's lemon roll, my favorite. So yes.
What is it?
Lemon roll.
Oh, that sounds good. And because it's your birthday and you are not able to eat this, I'm going to eat this for you.
Thank you. Much appreciated, Dr. Jan.
So take care. Is this another? Oh, here's another birthday. Oh, we're going to go out with all of these happy birthdays.
Woo-hoo. Thank you. Thank you. And if they want to get in touch with me, they can go to theresapuskar.com. And that's Puskar. So it's THERESA. Puskar. I have webinars and other things. I would love to connect with people and help them find their way. So,
all right, Theresa. That's TheresaPuskar.com.
Yeah, there's Puskar, but there's no H in there, just to confuse everybody.
I don't know what. Yeah, right. The H is silent.
That's right.
It's not there.
No.
All right, Theresa. You have a very blessed rest of your evening.
Thank you. Much love to you, and goodbye to your audience. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. This has been great. I hope all of you have gotten something out of this. I know that I did. And I'm going to work on forgiveness. I really, really am. I know I have to. And probably all of us need to forgive somebody or even ourselves. So I want to thank all of you all for coming this evening, tuning into my show. Next week, we have a young lady who has a story that is awesome. Her name is Charlene Jones. She's a singer, and you really need to tune in. So for tonight or tomorrow, or not tomorrow, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.